Michelle Walks, I want to throw you a big shout out, girl. You hooked a brother up because that thing you posted the other day is golden. And I've never seen it. All right, today we're going to go over a very old interview. Dates all the way back to June 18th of 2021. Now, June 18th is a mere 3 days after Summer first became missing. I'm sure you guys knew all that, but for those of you that didn't, there's a little info for you. This is an interview. It's a phone interview, and Dawn is talking to the Times News, which I'm thinking is the local paper there in Kingsport, around there in that area. Anyway, I don't think it's super important where the Times News is from, but they did an interview with Dawn, and like I said, this was early on, and man, it's like all this other stuff I rewatch. Some of it just now, it's like, what? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy how stiff stuff sticks out now. And man, I found a lot. And this interview is only like 10 minutes long, but it is packed with gems. So without further ado, let's ado the video. All right. The interviewer starts out. He just asks Dawn about what happened that day. And Dawn, in true Dawn fashion, starts out, I was at work. So, I'm getting this secondhand from Candace. This is what Candace told me. And, I don't guess there's nothing wrong with him saying that, but Dawn always seems like he's being crafty to me in the interviews. And he starts out telling the story. We've all heard it a million times. But after hearing it this time, I kind of picked up on something. I'm going to let you know in a minute. He gives an estimate of 20 feet was the distance from Grandis's camper to their house. Chris said it was like 50. So, man, it's like they are making their story even worse on accident, 20 feet. Jeez. And he tells the story. We've all heard the story. I'm not going to get super into it, but he says Summer, while they're planting flowers, all of a sudden wants to go in the house. Now, Summer was in the house playing with her toys when Candace come and said, "Hey, you want to plant some flowers?" And she was like, "Yeah, touchdown, let's do that." So it's kind of odd that she wanted to go back in the house so quickly, because they always talk about Summer is an outside person. She loves the outside. She constantly wants to be outside. So, if you think back, that just don't make any sense from the get-go. But that's my opinion, as usual. These are my opinions only. I don't speak for any of you or anyone else. Of course, he gives the crap about helicopter Candace, the helicopter mom, walking Summer to the door, says the boys were watching YouTube. All that sounds plausible. Well, the boys watching YouTube sounds plausible. Says when Candace went down to the basement door, the door was unlocked. Well, if she got out, that pretty much would be a have to now, wouldn't it? And, he said in other interviews that he thinks Summer could unlock the door. He would never fully admit that he knew she could, but he danced around it and kind of gives the idea he thinks she could. And this is where I get suspicious when he says Summer might have went outside. So she goes in. This is an issue for me. Like I said already, I don't get why. I tell you, let's just stop right there for a second. I want to say something. I really am starting to think this could have been an accident, because this story is full of holes. It makes no sense, and it reeks of BS. It does. It's horrible. So then he's still talking to this interviewer guy, and he says, just as calmly and matter of fact as you can, he says, she was gone, buddy. It's weird how through any of these interviews, neither one of them seem to have any kind of emotional reaction to talking about the really hard points of the stories and all that. It's like they tell it in one flat line scenario, no emotion or nothing. That's always kind of bothered me also. He says when Candace called him, he tells her, hang up and call 911. Says, I was at work, and then I called 911. That never made sense to me either. Why did he call 911? What's he going to tell them? Hey, my wife called and said my daughter's missing. Well, what can you tell us about it? I don't know. She just called. I only talked to her for a second. You know, why did he call 911? That didn't make no sense to me. He told Candace to hang up and her to call 911. I wouldn't have called right after that. I would have been afraid I would be getting confused or, you know, whatever. I wouldn't have followed it up with my own phone call. Now, mind you, he's doing 1,000 miles an hour back from Jonesboro. So apparently he can drive that fast, talk to Candace, talk to 911, get all this going on, and that was strange. Now, this part is where I feel like there's something to this. He says, like they both have called 911, right? Well, somebody told that dispatcher that Candace had went for a walk. The dispatcher didn't invent that part of the story. She was told that by someone. Now, if Don told her that, why would he tell her that? He knows all of them are supposedly scared to death of all this wildlife in the area. And if it wasn't him and Candace said that, well, why would she say it? Because she knows that's not the truth. I'm really sketchy about that 911 dispatcher talking about the mother had went for a walk. How did she get that information, and why would somebody have told her that? Because we all know that that's not the story. He says he put some of his tools in his car and then hauled butt out of there. I thought about that too after, you know, going over this and over this and over this. You reckon maybe he just threw a couple things in that car to give the idea that he had been to work? Thought, you know, if they see a little trowel in here and you know, whatever little tool, that would be enough for his alibi to pass. Because I just thought that was odd. If I'm one to take the time to get my tools, I'm getting them all, right? And if I'm so panicked that I want to get there as fast as I can, I'm leaving them all. One or the other. I'm not going to grab a few of them being like, that's good enough. You know? I think that's a cover, man. Just have a few tools in the car so it fits the story. What do y'all think about that? You ever thought about that? Seems odd, don't it? I think it seems odd. Then, and once again, he goes over beat everybody there. Got there in record time. I've always found that suspicious. Never understood how nobody got there before. None of these police could make it there before him if he was that far away. And if he wasn't that far away, why was he lying about how far away he was? You know? And if he didn't beat the cops there, why is he keep insisting that he did? Now, I've heard somebody, I haven't seen this as a fact, so I'm not going to state it as such, but I've seen people say that the cops said they were there first. And if that's the truth, why does he want everybody to think he was there first? That makes zero sense to me at all. And of course, he says he drove to the bottom of the property, seen people searching, and knew she was gone. She would never leave there on her own. Somebody has taken her. I didn't get that either. If there's people searching, why is it that he knew she was gone? If there's people searching, apparently they didn't know she was gone, so it's awful odd how confident he was of it. Then the interviewer starts to ask the question, and where he's going with this question, he's going to ask if it's possible that Summer could have wandered off of the property. And Don doesn't even let the guy get it all out. The interviewer says, "Is she capable?" "No!" And he just interjects. I guess he had a good idea of the question that was coming, but he was so quick to stop that dude and not let him have any thought that it could have been anything other than what he wants it to be, or he wants everybody to think it was. He says, Summer knew about the bears. I'd told her about the bears and how the woods were so dangerous. Then I thought about this. If there are so many bears and wild dogs and stuff around this property, that's extremely odd, given the fact that they have 10, 13 plus dogs. Bears don't just come around that, kind of setup. They're not going to come around where there's all these dogs. They're not. Bears typically avoid confrontation with humans, and I'm sure if they were in the vicinity, these dogs would be constantly after them. I had an old hound dog when I was little. His name was Pepper. Probably weighed 40 pounds. He attacked a bear that was near our house in the woods somewhere. Well, we assume it was a bear because half of his ear was missing when he got home. And they had seen a bear like a while before that. So I don't think there's bears just running around this area with all these dogs in the vicinity. Next, he talks about people coming around at all hours of the night. And then he even kind of corrects himself and says, "But this was at 5:30 in the day." Yeah, it's odd, ain't it? It's odd at 5:30 in the day this happened. I think I would have had a lot more faith in the story had it been late at night. It would have seemed more likely anyway. And he goes with somebody was laying in wait. Somebody was down there. Apparently, who knows how long they had been there. Like I said, Candace and Grandis were outside for a while before Summer went in and went down to the basement. So if there was somebody laying in wait, they had been there quite a while. Had avoided all the dogs that whole time, everybody else, and just been down there waiting for their moment. The timing just seems really hard for that to be the case. Says, she's definitely not around anywhere, and that someone has taken her out of the area. Why? Why do you know she's way out of the area? Why? If it would have been like a stranger abduction, I guess it's a good chance that's the case. But just how he is so matter of fact about all these details that he knows this is what happened. And he actually compliments the police, saying they've tracked down every lead of anybody that's ever been there and all this, and they've all come through clean and everything's good. It wasn't nobody that he knew that had ever been to the house. He brings up the lie detector test he took. He doesn't mention that he passed it, but he mentions that he took one. He doesn't discuss Candace taking one, but he mentions that he took one. Then he admits to the interviewer that the parents are the most likely suspects. And, he's such a walking contradiction, Everything he says just contradicts something else he said. And, my thing with that is, if he believes that the parents are the most likely suspects, why does he give Candace this free pass? Why does he think there's no way it could have been anything to do with Candace? If he would say that he don't think it was her, but you never know, or something like that, I would almost be more willing to believe that he's not in on it. It's his ever unquestionable support of her that makes me think he knows what's happened. Because, I mean, anybody's going to have a little bit of doubt in the back of their mind, and he swears up and down there is no chance, no way, couldn't be, no accident, none of that. Totally against it. Ain't hearing of none of it. He goes over again, they only associate with church people. Well, I ain't seen Allie or Jody Sue or none of them at church in the videos it's shown of Summer at church. I ain't seen none of them. They don't go to church and they associate with him, so I don't think that's completely accurate. Goes into his reasoning for joining the Seventh-day Church. He says he used to be a Baptist, but when he found out that the Sabbath was actually on Saturday, he's like, I'm going to go give these guys a try. And once he went one time, he was hooked. Never even thought more about anywhere else, and he's been there ever since. I don't know. You know, I'm not sure about none of that. I don't know. Somebody once told me that he was going to church as like a court-ordered punishment of some sort. I've never heard of that. Maybe it's just my area they don't think about that, but that don't seem like a very just punishment. You got to go to church. Because, church is going to be nice to them, help them out, do all kinds of stuff. Maybe it's more about rehabilitation by sending them to church, if that's true. I don't know. If y'all know, let me know. Y'all ever heard of that? Being sentenced to church? Could be, Different parts of the country, they do different things differently, so I'm not going to say it ain't. Y'all let me know, though. If y'all heard of it, where you live. Oh, yeah? All right. Says he can't be alone. If he has to, he will even go hang out with the police rather than be alone. My thing with that is, at this point, the boys are still with them. So, I don't see why he would need to be alone, Where are they at during this time? Where's Candace? Why is he alone? And I just can't see Don rolling up to the police station. Hey, y'all, I didn't want to be by myself. Thought I'd come hang out. Of course, if Ronnie's his cousin, maybe it's like a little family reunion for him. Who knows? I've heard that. See, it's pretty distant, but you never know what that could mean. You never know. He says that the brothers are coping with it better than him and Candace, and he seems mesmerized by that. I don't think that's a real surprising thing, Kids probably don't get how big the situation is. You know what I'm saying? Especially the youngest one. That one, he's pretty little. He probably doesn't understand exactly what's happened, And if I was his dad, I would kind of try to shield him from saying that some abductor come and took her. I would try to think of another way to kind of let him know that she was missing, but not scare the crap out of him in the process. Then he starts giving us a little bit of history on him and Candace. Says he's from Utah, met his wife in Arkansas. Said they originally come to Tennessee to help his mother, who was dying. Then he says he doesn't know what his mom died of is called. Ain't that crazy? How he don't know, like, Summer's birthday? He don't know what his mom died of is called? Dawn's memory must be horrible. How would you forget what your mother died of? You know, my my dad passed not too long ago, and I damn sure don't have a trouble remembering why. I don't think most people would. Said his mom left him the property. He made Tennessee his home, and there was a lot of good people in Tennessee. Yeah, I totally agree. There is a lot of good people in Tennessee. I like Tennessee. Like I said, I was there just last week. Good place. Love it. Love it. We was there for like 4 days in a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Bears spotted. Wild packs of dogs. See none of that. There was actually a couple dogs that would come and hung out at the cabin. Big old St. Bernard looking dogs. Sweet as they could be. We fed the crap out of them. They had about a ton of macaroni one night. Good looking dogs though. Really friendly. I thought they added to it. Added to the experience. It was like having your dogs with you. My dog was in the kennel. She wasn't happy about it either. Woman that was watching her said that she was keeping it to herself, and every time somebody got near her, she'd growl at them. That was Harley's first overnighter. She didn't care much for it. I don't think she'll be going back. Not voluntarily either. I think now when we're like, hey girl, get in the car, she can be like, I don't know about that. I remember what happened the last time I got in the car. Y'all's gone forever. You know dogs don't have a concept of time, so 4 days is probably like a month, 2 to her. Talks about the oldest was born in Arkansas. So, and I've never been real clear on this. That makes me think that Don must have lived with Candace in Arkansas at the very beginning. He doesn't, it's like he don't want to tell you anything. He doesn't volunteer nothing you don't absolutely straight out ask. He says Rose come up missing. He don't know how many years ago it was, but they never found no trace of her neither. I thought that was an interesting choice of words. Now, mind you, at the time of this, she's been missing 3 days. And he says, you know, she's missing a long time ago, and they ain't found no trace of her neither. Or I think he said neither. Yeah. They ain't found no trace of her neither. Does he not expect to find a trace of Summer ever? I don't know. Funny choice of words, in my opinion. What do y'all think? Let me know. Funny choice of words or not? Yeah. Okay. Doesn't know when Rose disappeared. Never paid no attention to that. Well, the way I understand it, him and Candace were together when it happened. And that's just another one of them things Dawn seems to have selective memory over. There's quite a bit of that. Admits he has a criminal history from Utah when he was younger. So, I'm not going to kick a man for telling the truth. You know? Of course, I'm pretty sure he knew that that was going to get found out. I don't think they knew how big this was going to get. A lot of people seem to think that too. They think there's no way they ever thought that this would last as long as it has and be as popular as it is. And Dr. Phil, and they didn't see none of that coming when they hatched the plan, is what people say. He's turned his life around, done his best to be a commandment keeper. Now, I'm thinking that means what it is. Commandment keeper means he keeps to the commandments. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not do all kinds of other stuff. So that's how Dawn's playing it. So my only plan now, no matter what happens, is to stay in church, be a commandment keeper, and wait for the resurrection. Dude's like, hey, what's your plan, man? What are you going to do? And he tells him that. Stay in church, be a commandment keeper, and wait on the resurrection. Let me take that question. John, what are you going to do? Well, I got 5 million flyers ordered. I'm going to start hanging them up as soon as I get off the phone here. Then I'm going to go search his place. It looked eerie to me on the way to the store yesterday. I seen it and I was like, yeah, I better look in there. Then I'm going to go do this and look. I'm going to look here. Then I'm going to talk to this person. None of that. None of that. Ask him, do you have hope for Summer? I have hope, but statistically, it doesn't look good, you know. Well, why are you a big guy of statistics when it fits your narrative? You know, because statistically, a stranger abduction is the least likely occurrence if we're going with statistics. It says it's unimaginable what she's going through. Well, yeah, it is. I don't even like thinking about what it could possibly be. He's praying for peace somehow and wished she would have got to know Jesus better. This part bothered me too. He acts like because Summer was only 5 that she didn't know enough about church and all that she would be able to go to heaven. And I thought that was kind of strange, you know. Said she was too young. She didn't know what all that stuff in church meant. I don't think she needs to. I don't think God's going to hold that against any child. Says, and the interviewer says that to him, basically, you know, that's not going to be held against her because of her age. I have hope with these statistics. Hopefully, with everyone praying and the police out there, it'll get turned around. That's probably the most optimistic thing he says ever. And, you know, I hope too. I hope all that happens. That was basically it. But I kind of wrote down what my biggest takes were out of the whole interview. And one of them was the comment about he threw a few tools in the Subaru and hauled butt. Swear that now to me, after hearing that, makes me think that he just did that to give the impression he was at work. Because you either throw all of them in there or you don't throw none of them in there. I just don't see unless, you know, because I know the job, the work he does. None of that stuff is super expensive to where you'd be like, oh, I gotta take that. You know, all them trowels and stuff like that's about the same price. So if I was going to take one, I'd take them all. If I was going to take that time. And you know, I really feel like there's been calls to him before saying that she couldn't find Summer. So it really makes you wonder why this time he reacted like that. I mean, every time that she called saying something like that, did he react that strongly? I don't know. Possibly. I tell you, I get tired of getting them calls. What do you mean? This is the second time this has happened. You know? Get real quick of that real soon. While Summer was inside, Summer loves outside. Why, when she gets outside, do you think she would choose to go back inside, go back down to that dark dungeon and play with toys? For somebody that loves being outdoors, that doesn't make sense, and I really feel like there's a good chance that whole story's crap, and that part is made into the story just to give that opportunity for her to disappear. Now this makes me think this story is really rehearsed between both of them. Both of them, when they tell the story, they talk about Summer wants to go back in the house, and they both reply, fine. Now, if your kid's coming up to you, hey, can I go back in the house? Are you going to say, fine? Or are you going to say, yeah, sure, no problem. Let's go. I swear they always say, and I said, fine. That just doesn't seem normal to me. And the fact that Dawn and her used that same word really makes me think that story's rehearsed. Because even if she told it to Dawn like that, you would think that wouldn't mean he would use that also. He would be like, she asked if she'd go back in. Kenneth said it was okay. You know, they both use fine, and I swear that makes that story seem rehearsed to me. Because it doesn't flow. It's not normal conversation, especially for people with their kind of vocabulary. It just doesn't fit to me. And the dispatcher thing. Why does the dispatcher seem to think that the mother was for a walk? Which one told her that? And why did they tell her that? Because both of them talk about how dangerous the woods are and the wildlife and all this. So why did anybody tell that dispatcher that she was going for a walk? It's not the truth. It's not even part of the story. The dispatcher didn't make that up. Somebody told that dispatcher that when they were explaining what was going on. Who told her that and why? That's a big red flag, I think. The weird comment about Rose. You know, she'd been missing forever and they never found a trace of her neither. 3 days after Summer's been missing, he's saying they never found a trace of her neither. Like, he never expects to find a trace of Summer 3 days after she goes missing when he gives this interview. They ask him too, you know, what have you been doing? He says, just trying to cope. He never talks about making flyers, not searching, not nothing. Says he's just trying to cope. I thought that was really telling. He didn't say he was trying to find her. He didn't say he was trying to rally the troops. None of that. Just trying to cope. And also, that guy, when he's going over their backstory and stuff, Dawn doesn't know where Candace grew up at. Who is married that long and doesn't know where their significant other grew up at? That is super odd. That tells you a ton about their relationship, if that's true. And, you know, I thought that was interesting, all of that. You know, watching that again and some of the verbiage used and things like that really seem odd to me. I'm going to try to add it to the link. And once again, big shout out to Michelle Walks. Good timing on that post. She just posted this too, so maybe she watched it and was like, it sounds crazy to her too, you know. I don't know. That's all I got, guys. We'll see you next time.